Do you have dreams of becoming a super spy, being a secret agent? Well, I'd tell you I love you, but then I'd have to kill you. I'm talking about the wonderful books of Allie Carter. She's coming up next on Books Alive. Well, Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, got nothing on this girl. I am joined in the studio today by the very dynamic superwoman here, Allie Carter. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, your books are amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
I just finished reading all 4 of them like in one fell swoop. I had read them before, but I thought I'd do them as a collection. And it's really cool to see what's going on in there and watch Cammie develop.
Yes.
Yeah, you're taking us on quite a trip.
Yes, it's been very interesting as the author. You know, we start out with this very young 15-year-old in the first book, and she's very naive and she hasn't really seen that much of the world. And I just finished the 4th book and I'm getting ready to start the 5th book.
Ooh.
And now she's 17 and her life has changed dramatically and the world is much bigger, darker, more dangerous place. And it's been very interesting to kind of grow up with Cammie through this process, I have to admit.
Okay, now Allie, for those who haven't picked up book 1 yet, you know, maybe they're just 10, turning 11 or something and getting ready for them. These are the Gallagher Girls.
They are.
Can you tell us about the Gallagher Girls?
The Gallagher Girls are a group of basically 4 core friends who attend the Gallagher Academy for Exceptional Young Women. And the Gallagher Academy is set in the D.C. area in rural Virginia, and it's probably the world's premier training academy for spies. And so girls get admitted to this school when they're in the 7th grade. Some girls come to it because they come from a spy family and it's kind of in their blood. Some girls test in because they're just so incredibly brilliant that the government's like, yeah, we want some of that. So if you meet the right criteria, you might get to become a Gallagher girl. and you move into this glorious old mansion in rural Virginia and you start taking courses like the history of espionage and covert operations and advanced encryption, and you learn 14 different languages and you become as part of this sisterhood. And so that's the world that I've built. And my main character, Cammie Morgan, she's very much a part of that world. Her mother's the headmistress of the school. She's one of the better students at the school, which is saying something. And it's been very interesting kind of to start this kind of wild ride about if I were a girl at spy school, what's the worst that could happen? Because that's my job as the author, is to mess these people's lives up in the most interesting way possible. And so that's what we did with I'd tell you I love you, but then I'd have to kill you. I thought, if I were living this top secret life, what would be the worst thing that could happen? And I thought, well, what's always the worst thing that happens? Boys.
Yes.
So that's where we go in the first book.
Okay, so here they are. They're in spy school. You did set it in Roseville, Virginia. Any reason why you picked that?
Well, I wanted a fictional town so that I could make up as much of the town as I needed to.
Okay.
And I knew from spending time in the D.C. area, my sister went to UVA, so I know a little bit about Virginia, and I know that the Ville is a very common name. So Roseville sounded like a nice place to set it.
Okay, now you've got Cammie, and she is a chameleon.
She is.
She's the one that nobody notices.
Nobody notices Cammie.
Okay, why did you develop her that way?
I did that very intentionally. I had heard once, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I had heard that all of the actors who have ever played James Bond would never be allowed to have that job in real life because they're all too tall and too handsome. And so they have very specific requirements for MI6 agents that they have to fit, you know, they can't be over a certain height and they can't be, because these are supposed to be the people who blend in. A good spy is not this tall, rakishly handsome, you know, person that every head turns when they walk into a room. A good spy is the guy working as the maitre d' that nobody, you know, pays to two glances
And
at.
you wouldn't remember the face.
You wouldn't remember the face. You wouldn't remember anything about them. They came, they got their microchip, they left. And so I always remembered that and thought about that with espionage. And so I wanted to write my character to be that girl who blends in. And also, I think that all girls, that's the first line in the book, I believe, is that, you know, every teenage girl feels invisible sometimes. And I think that that is 100% true.
Okay.
And that was the first line of the book whenever I sat down and wrote the first draft, and it never changed.
I suppose a lot of teenage girls feel invisible sometimes, like they just disappear. Well, that's me, Cammie the Chameleon.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And so I wanted...
Who doesn't feel that way?
Who doesn't feel that way? And I go and do school visits, and girls come and talk to me, and they say, you know, I always feel like I'm not as special as my friends, or I feel like nobody really notices me.
Yeah.
And every single person feels that way.
Wow.
And so I wanted a main character of the book to feel that way,
And
so that the
represent
girls
that.
would see that in themselves.
Okay, now you're going to send these girls out. You've got 4 characters, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But you're going to send them on, you know, like learning how to do surveillance and how to do counter surveillance. And how did you learn how to do all of this?
Well,
how do you learn this?
It's amazing what you can find with the internet these days, and with a library, and with the International Spy Museum. You're so fortunate here in this area to have the International Spy Museum right down the road, and they have a wonderful website full of resource materials, and they have a wonderful bookstore and gift shop there, and you can access all of that via their website. And so I actually ordered a lot of real training manuals. I had this.
Wait, they're real?
They're real training
They're real?
manuals. Well, the International Spy Museum, my favorite resource book, especially when I was doing the first book, is actually published by the Spy Museum, and it's called How to Be a Spy.
Oh,
and it's just this little tiny book, and it's full of, you know, spy terms and vocabulary, and it's a very quick, easy read, and it's made for kids, probably made for like a, you know, 9, 10-year-old. And which is right on my level, and so it worked out very nicely. They also, you can access a lot of the old World War II training documents have now been declassified, and so you can have like Office of Special Services training guides and materials, and this is how you know, establish cover, and this is how you set up a surveillance detail post.
Okay.
And you know, you can
surveillance detail.
And I have books on you know, how to do moving surveillance, how to do vehicular surveillance, how to do counter surveillance.
Does this appeal to you? Do you want to try this out, or do you just want to write about it?
I just want to write about it. I like knowing it in theory. It makes me feel good walking through a parking lot. I feel much more secure. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember where this person is and that person is, and I'm much more aware of my surveillance.
Vigilant.
I'm vigilant. I'm really good in a parking garage.
Wow.
Just try to get at me there.
How are restaurants? Are you like looking for the?
Yes, you know, you notice things more. Like especially, I was in Italy not long ago, and we were in Venice and going through some of the museums and some of the cathedrals there with some friends. And I was like, you know, this painting is not as secured as it probably should be. There is not a motion detector in this entire room, and they need to get on that. You know,
She's become a security expert. Excuse me.
I would not go that far, but I am. I'm always looking at things differently now than I would.
You're thinking that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Definitely.
All right. Now, so they're all going to be learning all these things, and whenever they go in to eat a meal, there's some little thing that tells them what language they'll be discussing in, and which could be Portuguese or Swahili. We don't care. They can do it all.
Yeah.
But there are 4 main girls.
Yes.
So we've met Cammie the Chameleon.
Yes.
Now let's do Liz.
Liz, I knew I wanted to have one of Cammie's best friends at the school be not from a spy family. Somebody who is there simply because she's so incredibly brilliant. And I did that for a couple of different reasons. Number 1, to show the diversity of the school. Number 2, I knew that Cammie and her friends had been at school for a while. And so when you have someone who's an outsider to the world, the other characters can explain something to that character and thereby explain it to the reader.
Cool.
So that's a good way to get the reader information without having to do kind of an info dump and get the reader that information.
Okay.
So from just like a logistical standpoint, that made sense. Their other very good friend is Bex, and Bex is the first ever non-American Gallagher girl. Her parents are actually secret agents for the British Secret Service, and so they have done so much work with the CIA that they kind of made a special exception and let Bex come.
And her real name is Rebecca.
Rebecca, yes, Rebecca Baxter. But I like the idea. I'd heard once of a British girl whose nickname was Bex, who her full name was Rebecca. And I always liked that nickname. And Rebecca is a very beautiful girl and classically beautiful, but she's also very edgy and spunky and feisty. And I thought she wouldn't want to be Rebecca. She would want to be something edgier.
She's very physical.
She's very
isn't
physical.
She? Yeah.
She's very, I always like to say that of the four of them, Bex is easily the best spy. I think that if I were the CIA or MI6 and I had to send somebody on a mission,
You'd send Bex.
I'd send Bex. Bex is the best
Let's
agent.
give Liz her due here, though. She's a genius,
Liz
right?
is a genius.
Yes.
Liz has a photographic memory. She's crazy intelligent. She's terribly accident prone. Bless her heart.
Daisy.
Whoopsie daisy. Liz is the kind of girl that can give herself a bloody nose opening a can of Pringles. You know, she just, you love her, but this is how she is.
Did you do that so that everybody could feel like you don't have to be perfect, you just have to have an asset that you can really...
Exactly.
Okay.
Also because I think that TV and movies, we've gotten so trained that all spies are like James Bond or they're all like Jason Bourne, when in fact the true espionage world is made up of a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets. And the guy who never leaves his office in Langley is just as valuable and maybe the person who actually comes to a lot of these great conclusions. So I wanted to show that sometimes, you know, you don't have to be the Kung Fu Supermaster to be the great agent. That Liz is definitely playing a very important role.
Yeah, and she continues to do that through all four of the books.
Yes.
All right, bring on Macy.
Macy, I have to admit, was never meant to stick around. She makes an appearance in the first book because, again, as an author, I wanted to show the dual sides of the school. You've got this famous school that, you know, it's a big building. It's not like you can hide it. It's not like nobody knows the school is there. So how can it maintain this kind of secret life? And so I thought the best way to do that is to actually show how the school literally will flip itself. You know,
that is amazing.
Everything will change when they do what they call a code red. And they only do that when outsiders are coming into the school. And so I knew that I wanted to show what happens when an outsider comes in. I also knew that the first line of defense would be let very few outsiders in. And so it would have to be somebody very powerful, somebody with a great deal of influence, and somebody who has a very good reason for being there. And so I thought, well, what if a senator really wants his daughter to go to school there?
Wow.
That would get them through the gates.
Wow.
And so that's how Macy came to be. And I thought, okay, this girl who's got a lot going on. She's obviously very smart, but she's rebelling against her parents. She's been kicked out of every other boarding school in the country. And she finally meets her match at the Gallagher Academy. And so that's where Macy came from. And she showed up in the sample chapters, like the first 3 chapters. And my agent, Kristen Nelson, at the Nelson Literary Agency, read it. And she said, now Macy is going to stick around, isn't she? And I said, well, you know, I hadn't really, she's like, no. Macy is going to stick around, isn't she? And I said, absolutely, Macy is going to stick around. And that was probably one of the best decisions that I made because she's really rounded them out.
I've got a question for you because you just talked about your agent. And did you get an agent and then you submitted the manuscripts, or what was it, the chicken or the egg? What came first?
The first, for me and for 90% of the authors that I know, the manuscript comes first. Now, these books were not my first books. So I had done a couple of adult books that are no longer in print. So I had an agent based on that experience. So in that case, the agent came before the books.
Because I know kids who want to write, everybody's always asking, should I get an agent first?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
What's the agent going to do?
Yeah.
It's like saying, should I get an agent? I want to be a professional baseball player. Should I learn how to bat or should I get an agent? You learn how to, what's the agent?
So you write the manuscript. Then did you submit your first one yourself to the publisher?
No.
Then you get
an agent. And it's very simple, basic process. People think, I think sometimes that there's some kind of trick involved, and there's really not. It's you write a good book, you do your homework on what agents are looking for that type of book. You go on their websites, you find out how to submit to them, and they all have it listed right there in black and white on their websites. You follow those submission procedures, and if they're interested in your book, they'll let you know.
I think that's the best explanation of the process we've ever heard.
Oh, good.
That was really great. Okay, let's go back to Macy.
Sure.
Because you brought her in for a reason.
Yes. Macy she's kind of in the first book she plays a very important role in that she knows about boys.
Yes.
She has never, she is new to the Gallagher Academy. She hasn't had this protected, sheltered life. She knows about the outside world. And in this book, and I'd tell you I love you, but then I'd have to kill you, it's really Cammie and to some extent Liz and Bex's first exposure to the outside world as well. But Macy's been there. And so all these girls, they can speak Swahili, they can speak Portuguese, they can speak Russian and Korean and all these languages. Lacey can speak the language of boy.
Yes.
So when Josh, the boy that Cammie meets and is kind of interested in, can say, maybe I'll see you around. What does that mean? How do you know what that means?
Yes.
Macy knows, and Macy can tell them, which is nice.
Every girl in the United States, if not the planet, wants to meet Macy.
Yes.
Because we are all trying to get the answers to those questions.
The boy to English translator
Yes.
that they're always talking about developing.
Exactly.
Yes. If I had that on my website, I'd get a million hits a day.
Yeah. I was thinking of at one point, I think Cammie gets a note from Zach. Not in this book, but in a later book, and it's on Evapo paper.
Yes.
And so it's going to disappear.
Yes.
So she doesn't have it to go back and have all of her friends analyze the handwriting and how hard was he holding the pen and what did that mean? And like we are,
we
you know?
want to do that.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, when I was writing the first book, the thing I kind of kept coming back to in my mind, kind of the core of the story, and when I would get worried or off center and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, I would always come back to this one sentence, and that was that all girls with crushes are spies. These girls just have the training to back it up.
Oh, wow.
We're staking out a guy's locker. We know what kind of car his mom drives.
Yes.
We're trying to find out what his friends are saying. We
Yes.
would hack his computer and bug his phone if we could.
Exactly.
These are girls who can do that.
Yes. We know his wardrobe.
Exactly.
I'm thinking back to my teenage years, and boy, we knew it all.
You know it
all.
all.
Where did he walk from this class to that class? You had him totally staked out. You're right.
That's
That's
right.
the word.
If I position myself by the water fountain
Yes.
between 4th and 5th period,
Yeah.
he has to go right by me.
Do you think they have any idea?
Boys, I think, are fairly clueless. I think they are just a little bit clueless. I genuinely do. And girls, meanwhile, are hyper analyzing everything.
Every detail.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
I
great.
hear that from them all the time.
All right, now let me pick up book 2 in the series, and I love the covers with the little bits of
Thank you.
plaid
I
on
do
everyone.
too.
That's so great. All right, Cross My Heart and Hope to Spy.
Yes.
Things start to change in this one.
They do. They do, as things do frequently have to do.
Yeah, you're right.
I can't
things
keep
are
writing
always
the same book
changing.
over again.
Yep.
Cross My Heart actually came about. I was working with my wonderful editor at the time. Her name was Donna Bray. And there's a line in the first book that Tina Walters is one of the minor characters, and Tina's kind of the school gossip. And there's a line that says, Tina Walters has been swearing for years that there's a top secret boys' school in Maine.
Yes.
And so we were talking and kind of brainstorming about what to have happen in the second book. And my editor said, you know what my favorite line is? And I said, I think I know. And she said, I like the line about the boys' school in Maine. And I said, I do too. And she said, what if we experienced or got to know the boys at the boys' school in Maine?
Yes.
And so that's where we meet the Blackthorn boys.
Yeah.
And it's not the brother school to the Gallagher Academy. It's a very different school. And Cammie and her friends find out that some of those boys, that first of all, the school does exist. And second of all, some of those boys are coming to the Gallagher Academy for kind of an exchange, not an exchange program, but a guest residency program. And it really turns her world upside down. It absolutely does.
Now, isn't that where you put him in the helicopter? And did you take him to D.C. for the surveillance? But this time, they have to outwit who's following them, right? Okay, and she thinks she's like home free, baby.
She's the chameleon. This is what she was bred and born to do.
Yeah.
And so, but it's harder than she would think, she finds out, because you never know who. It's when you are tailing someone, you have to focus on one person. When you are the person being tailed, it could be anyone, and it could be anywhere. And you have no idea. And so everyone becomes a suspect. And the question of trust really became a big theme in this book. Because you have no idea. And I think that, again, that's something that all teenage girls deal with.
Exactly.
And you never really grow up, you never really grow out of the problems that you have as a teenager. You hopefully just get better at dealing with them. And so that's kind of my philosophy. And so the issue of who is really your friend, who is a really trustworthy person,
Yes.
who has your best interest at heart, and who is really trying to trick you or play you,
Right.
is something that's, again, it's heightened when you're a spy, but we
Yeah.
all have those feelings.
Yeah, yeah, that book was a little hard for me to read just because of that, because you began to get that feeling of, would they ever truly feel safe?
Yes.
Would they ever let their guard down?
Yes.
You know, and I think you said there, you know, who are you going to let in?
Yeah.
Who are you going to let your guard down to?
Yes.
And you do, as a teenager, boy or girl,
Yeah.
you're experimenting with that process and learning some hard lessons about who wasn't really there for you.
Absolutely hard. And, you know, this, especially because she starts looking at her teachers. And she's always, up until this point, thought that being a spy would be just this great, incredibly cool, glamorous thing. And she sees her teachers and she's like, it would be exhausting to do this for as long as they've been doing this. To spend their whole lives not knowing who to trust.
Looking, wondering.
And always wondering and looking over their shoulders.
But you gave them the best thing. They got a truth ring.
I know. I love the idea of the truth ring.
Yes.
I
want a truth ring.
I do too.
We all want a truth ring.
My friend Carly, and I'm sure Carly will probably watch this at some point. Carly, I remember when we were in middle school, had a mood ring, and we thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so I always remembered that as a very vivid middle school memory of looking at the ring and trying to figure out what Carly's mood was, you know, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted them to have like the spy version of that. And so if you're with a boy and you want to know, can I trust this guy or not?
Exactly.
What better to have than a truth ring?
Than a truth ring. That was so cool. All right, this is too much fun. It's just too much fun. I mean, it's like an enormous pajama party. But anyway, we're going to take a short break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to take a look at the last two books in the series, and then we're going to look at her standalone, at least for right now, because I'm thinking there's something else coming after that, the Heist Society. There's more to come. Stay with us.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
When someone abducts a child, they're not about to advertise it. But we will. Sign up at wirelessamber-alerts.org to get free Amber Alert text messages on your cell phone. Help put a child abductor out of business for good. Wireless Amber Alerts. A child is calling for help. When someone abducts a child, they're not about to advertise it. But we will. Sign up at wirelessamber-alerts.org to get free Amber Alert text messages on your cell phone. Help put a child abductor out of business for good. Wireless Amber Alerts. A child is calling for help.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us again. If you are just joining us, I am sitting here with super spy woman Allie Carter, the author of I Tell You I Love You, but Then I'd Have to Kill You, and the other Gallagher Girl books. So welcome back, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
We've been having a lot of fun. We're going to pick up book number 3, Don't Judge a Girl by Her Cover.
Yes.
And I guess what I'd love to ask you is, here, let me hold this up a little bit longer. Did you have a cover in high school?
I think everybody has a cover in high school, and I think that it varies on who you are. I think that if you ask your parents what type of girl Cammie is, or any girl, they're going to say one thing, and you ask your best friend, and you might say something else, and you might have a friend from, not from school, but from camp or something else, and they might know a little different version of you. And everybody, if you ask everybody, you might get the whole picture. But I think I think that everybody has a little different cover with everybody that you get to know.
And they have the one that they think that they are.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I think a lot of high school is also figuring out who you are, because I know that when I'm with with this person, this aspect of my personality comes out, but when I'm with another person, I'm not like that at all. And what does that say about me, and what does that mean? And I think these are all very natural questions, and we all deal with them.
I'm still dealing with them.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to deal with them forever.
Absolutely.
And as you age, you change, and so the whole thing just gets, anyway.
It gets crazy.
Okay, so we are into the political scene here.
Yes.
Macy's dad has decided to go big time.
Yes.
Running for the VP.
He has been nominated for vice president. And I was writing this very much, it was on my mind during the '08 elections, and I was watching especially the Obama Girls and thinking about, if you were a spy, that would be one of the worst things that could possibly happen to you, because you're thrust so much in the limelight and you're not incognito anymore. Everybody's digging into your past, and I thought this would be a very challenging thing to have happen, not just to Macy, but to the Gallagher Academy in general, because all of a sudden we've got, you know, news vans parked outside the gates. We've got helicopters flying over, and this is going to change how we do business at the Gallagher Academy. And so I really wanted to, again, my job is to mess the characters' lives up the most interesting way possible. And I thought that would be a very good way of messing up my characters' lives.
Well, Macy has always been good at creating cover.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
And so she really is good at it in this situation. I mean, even the people that are close to her, kind of behind the scenes, she's got a cover they don't really know.
She totally does. She's got the person she is with her parents, because she doesn't want her parents to find out how smart she is and how capable she is, because they have kind of pigeonholed her as she is our troubled, bratty daughter. And she kind of relishes that, because Macy likes being underestimated. And then you've got the people that are like their closest political advisors, and so they again expect her to be in this role. Then you've got the role that she has to play when she's on stage and she's waving and smiling at the cameras, and she's the doting, adoring daughter. And then she's got the person that she is with her friends, who is really the closest version of the true Macy that there is. And all these other kind of covers exist so that nobody really realizes how awesome this girl is.
Yes, and you've got a line in there about, and I think it might be Cammie that's thinking it, about, can you ever really know what it's like to be in Macy's shoes?
Exactly.
And can we ever really know what it's like? Can you know what it's like to be me? Can I know what it's like to be you?
I don't think we can.
No.
I really, truly don't. I don't know what it's like to be in my shoes half the time. So to try to imagine somebody else's shoes, let's just forget about it.
I know. I think of all the misunderstandings, all the work these girls are going to understand these boys.
Yeah.
The boys can't even understand themselves.
No.
The girls don't even know who they are, and we're trying to make sense of each other, and it's like, ah!
And of course, in this book, it's not just the political wheels that are going on. You know, there's also a group of people that are, we think, you know, that they show up in Boston at the convention, and we don't really know what they want. Come to find out, they want Macy. And so at this point, it's the Gallagher Academy is not just some place that they practice in theory at this point.
Yes.
It's not just how do you know, take a class on protection. It's how do you actually keep your friend from being kidnapped. And so everything kind of leaves the classroom for the first time in a really big way, and don't judge a girl by her cover. So it stops being about, you know, the theory of keeping your sisterhood safe, and very much about the practice of it.
And as you said at the beginning, as the books go along and the girls are getting older, it gets a little bit darker.
It does.
And their world starts to really take on, I mean, choices. And, you know, I thought about them, and I thought, you know, here they are at 15, 16, 17, and what they're looking at, would they really still choose to be there?
Yes,
you know?
exactly. Now that they know the truth, that it's not some spy movie. It is very, very dangerous, very difficult, very challenging, and it's forever. It's not the kind of thing that you can really walk away from very easily. They have chosen this life, and it's not just a job, it's a life.
Yes, and we haven't talked about Zach that much, but Josh appears in the first book, and he's cute.
He's cute.
And then Zach's going to show up, and he's awesome. And he says somewhere along there that he has nothing to lose.
He's got nothing to lose. Zach is kind of a mystery. I know more about Zach than the readers know at this point, which is how you want it to be.
We love that.
And he's very interested in Cammie. He's very, he has this knack of showing up at very dangerous, very mysterious points in her life.
And it's unexpected.
Yes.
You are a master at
Oh, well,
those little
thank you.
cliffhangers and popping these people in, and you're like, whoa!
Well, I try. And it's just, you gotta keep it interesting and keep it moving. And I'm very much aware of the fact that people don't have a lot of time to read. They don't have a lot of time to give to these books, and so if you don't keep them interested, they're going to move on. They've got better things to do. And so I'm a big proponent of just get on with it already. And so that I write just get on with it already books.
Yeah.
And those are the types of books I like to read. Yes, definitely.
What's a get on with it already book that you've read?
I really love the Percy Jackson series, which is
yeah.
also done by Disney Hyperion.
Yeah.
And Rick, is sort of the crown prince of the reluctant reader for that reason.
Yeah.
Because those are very much just get on with it already books. Something needs to be happening.
Right.
And not necessarily just action, but because a quiet story can be a just get on with it already story too.
What's an example of that?
I just read a book called The Poison Diaries by Mary Rose Wood. It's a new release. It's for slightly older readers, and it was a very fulfilling, quick read. But it was a quiet story, and so it's not
boys
just
or girls or both.
Both, I think.
Okay.
It's probably more girls. It's a historical about a girl whose father is a botanist, I guess would be the technical term, and he raises all these rare plants and for potions and chemicals, and it's a very good book. Yeah,
A little thoughtful there.
Yeah.
All right, Only the Good Spy Young. Whoa.
Yes.
All right. Well, we didn't talk about The Circle. We should have talked about The Circle, but let's talk about this one. Explain what this circle, and pronounce the C-A-V-A-N word.
The Circle of Cavan is how I pronounce it.
Okay.
Is we find out through Don't Judge a Girl by Her Cover that the Circle of Cavan is, well, let me back way up.
Okay.
The school, the Gallagher Academy, was founded by a woman named Jillian Gallagher, and it's in her old ancestral home. And Jillian is famous for, she is the woman who saved Abraham Lincoln's life the first time there was an assassination
Is there any
attempt.
historical background?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Just
just me
curious.
making stuff up.
Okay.
So I always had it in my mind that wouldn't it be great if this 19-year-old girl, saved Lincoln's life. And so she tried to join what was then the Secret Service, and they were like, you're a girl, go get married and have babies.
Yeah.
And so instead of doing that, she founded a school for other girls like her. And so we find out through the course of the book, too, that the people who were behind that original assassination attempt, they're still out there in the world. And they still kind of have a grudge against Gallagher Girls. And I don't want to go too much into detail. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone.
No.
But there is definitely this big bad that's now looming in Cammie's world.
Yes.
And that they're only going to get bigger and badder as the series goes on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they got pretty big and bad in this one.
Yes.
There's a teacher named Joe Solomon that
Yes.
that we've all kind of drooled over a little bit
Yes.
and loved and
Yes.
totally trusted and
Yes.
thought of him as our father a little bit
Yes.
too, and everything. And
We don't want to spoil too much.
no.
No.
Okay. So, but anyway,
Yes.
he has a big part at the beginning of this one.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
yeah, really good.
And she's really starting to question the questions of trust. And it's not just the boys in my life can I trust, but who among the adults in my world can I trust? And now that I know that double agents do exist and that there are rogue operatives in the world, and anybody, anywhere can actually be out to get me or my friends or my sisterhood. And it's just a very dangerous world that Cammie lives in now. And so it was definitely the darkest of the book so far.
Yeah.
But she's still a 16. She turned 17 at the beginning of this book, and she still worries about what her hair looks like.
Right.
And that's a very important balance that I hope the series never loses, because no matter how terrible the things are that are crashing down around you, you're still fundamentally at your core who you are. And Cammie is a girl who values her friends, she values her mom, and she just really kind of wants to figure things out.
And her father is supposed to be dead.
Yes.
And as far as we know, he is dead.
Her father was also a CIA operative. He went on a mission and never came back. And so the official, they had a funeral. Officially, he has been declared dead. by the CIA and by the government. And as far as Cammie knows, that's true.
Yeah.
But it's one of those looming things that
Yes.
I've never seen my father's body. I've never, you know, known where he was actually buried. I've never. She needs a lot of closure on those issues, and so that's definitely something that Cammie's friends and even her enemies know is a weakness that she has. That she wants to. She wants answers.
She's vulnerable there.
That nobody knows what happened to her dad. But as Zach tells her at one point in the series, somebody knows.
Somebody knows. You said that mysterious is sexy, and you're making Zach so mysterious. Are you having fun there?
I am. It's really fun to have characters because they're first-person point of view. So it's the reader only knows what Cammie knows. They know no more, no less.
Yeah.
And so readers will email me or they'll come up to me at signings and they'll be like, you know, what happened to Cammie's dad? I'm like, well, Cammie doesn't know. You know as much as Cammie knows at this point.
Yeah.
Which is kind of one of the exciting things about first person.
How did you become a writer? Did you always know that you wanted to write?
That's a good question. I fell in love with the idea of being a writer when I was probably 12 or 13 and I read The Outsiders for the very first time.
Wow.
And I'd heard and I found out that Essie Hinton had written that when she was a teenager. And the fact that this was a very cool thing, it was a book that I loved, that it was written by a girl about my age, made me think, okay, well that's what girls my age do is we write books. And so that was the leap that I made. And that was, so she was my role model in that sense. And so that was when the idea first occurred to me.
Okay.
I didn't start actively pursuing it until my mid-20s probably, but it was always something looming in the back of my mind.
Did you go to school to learn to write?
I did not, no.
How did you learn to write?
Writing is something that I will never say that creative writing programs are a bad thing or being an English major is a bad thing if you want to write, because I certainly have friends that took that route and it's been very good by them. But I think at the end of the day, you learn to write by reading and by writing. It's something that you can only learn by doing. And so understanding the theory of this and the theory of that doesn't get words on paper.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you apply your rear end to a chair and your fingers to keys, and you repeat until it's finished. And it's really not a rocket science type of thing.
Do you write every day?
Not every day, you know, especially when I'm on the road touring or whatnot like I am right now. And, you know, I'm more of a binge and purge kind of writer. You know, I may have a day or two where I don't write at all. I go to movies, I do laundry, I live life.
Right.
And then I might have days where I write, you know, 14, 15 hours. And so it's kind of like, I like to use the analogy, it's a lot like painting your bedroom. Like while you have the stuff out and you're messy, you want to get as much of it done as you can. But there are some days you just don't feel like getting into it.
Okay.
And so I kind of go through those phases.
And I've read that you don't like rewriting.
Rewriting, I think, is essential, and I don't like it because that's where the work starts. Writing is very easy in that it doesn't have to be any good. You just have to throw something on paper. You figure it out. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, this scene is... I'm writing in an alley. I don't like it in an alley. Let's switch it to a bridge. And the next sentence, they're on a bridge, you know. And I don't have to go back and mess up, you know, clean up the messes. Rewriting is cleaning up the messes. And so, yeah.
Okay. Okay, why do you write for young adults?
I write for young adults because that's where my natural voice is. And I like reading young adult literature. I like to think that we're going through kind of a golden phase of young adult literature, that 30, 40 years from now, people will look back at the books that are being written right now as some of the greatest books ever. I really think that that's true.
Wow.
And so
That's great.
I think this is where it's at. I don't think it's for everyone. If you don't like teenagers, don't write for teenagers.
No.
If you think, I hear this all the time, people saying, how do you develop a young adult voice? Should I just go to the mall and eavesdrop on kids? I'm like, really, no. You shouldn't be writing for teenagers.
If it doesn't just come from you, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Okay.
Don't force it, because teens are much, much harsher critics than adults are. They're smarter readers for one, and they're far more opinionated for two. And if they can spot a fake a mile away. And if you try to pretend to have a teen voice, you won't get.
It doesn't resonate.
Yes, you don't.
Dun 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 dun. The Heist Society. Or actually, there's no the. It's just Heist Society. Well, Kat Bishop, she's pretty cool.
She is.
Great cover.
Thank you.
Isn't that awesome?
It really is.
Okay.
I don't know if they can get a close-up on that so that you can see the painting and the sunglasses.
Yeah, we'll try.
It's great.
We'll definitely try. Okay, so you got out of the land of Spidem for a little bit, and you leaped over into stealing.
I did.
Why not?
Spies and thieves. They go hand, they're just they're opposite sides of the same coin in a lot of ways.
Right. All right. Her father has a problem. I got to ask this, if they made a movie of this, would you want George Clooney to play Bobby Bishop?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm open to that as long as I get to meet him. That would be fabulous.
But aren't you already dating
we're
George
dating,
Clooney? Well, okay,
yeah.
okay.
He is my fictional boyfriend.
Okay.
He's my official fictional boyfriend. Yes, no, George and I we're deeply in love.
All right.
This was a book that came about. I was actually driving in my car one day listening to a book on tape, and there was a line in the book that said something like, I was like a cat burglar in my own house. And I immediately thought, I want to write a book about a girl named Kat who's a burglar.
Wow.
And so that's where Heist Society came about. And I've always loved con movies and heist movies.
Yes.
So The Sting, Ocean's 11, How to Steal $1 Million, Thomas Crown Affair.
Yeah.
That whole genre is my favorite genre of film. And they're smart and they're caperish, and I like the idea of bad guy as good guy. And you know, you get so much sort of interplay between worlds and everything that happens with those movies. And so I really wanted to adapt that because I couldn't really think of a good YA book example. I'm sure there are some, but at the time I really couldn't think of any. So I said, you know, this is a character I want to do and a world I want to spend time in.
Oh, well, she's really hilarious. I mean,
thank you.
But she's, you want to be her. You so want to be her. I mean, when she walks out of, is it the Colgan School?
The Colgan School.
Okay. And the stretch limo is waiting.
Yes.
And the door opens, and who's sitting inside there?
W.W. Hale V.
Yes.
And W.W. Hale V, or otherwise known as Hale, is probably Kat's best friend in the world. And he is a boy who's kind of like Macy. He's from a very prominent, wealthy family that has ignored him for most of his life.
He's a billionaire.
He's a
isn't
billionaire.
He?
He's been raised by nannies and butlers and chauffeurs and shipped off to boarding schools. And then he meets Kat.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want his family anymore. He wants to be a part of Kat's family. And so now he's kind of her partner in crime, literally. And they've spent a lot of time, you know, doing different jobs and heists around the world.
Yes.
And Kat wanted to leave that world, and so that's how she conned her way into the Colgan School. But she gets kicked out in the first chapter for trashing the headmaster's Porsche. Come to find out, Hale is the one who trashed the Porsche because they needed her to kick out to do a job, to get kicked out so they could do a job.
Okay, now set it up for people who haven't read it yet, because she is going to have to do something.
It's a complex plot, as a lot of heist stories are. But basically, Kat has gotten kicked out because they have a message for her. And the message is that there's a very bad man. He's a mobster. He lives in Italy. He's international.
It's Arturo Taccone, or how do you?
I say Taccone.
Okay.
Arturo Taccone, and he is a very, very bad guy. He's, you know, international arms deals, all kinds of serious badness. And he has these 5 paintings that are kind of his prized possessions, and the paintings have been stolen. The only problem is that he is convinced that there are only 3 or 4 people in the world who could have done it, one of whom is Kat's father. He's convinced Kat's father stole the paintings. And he's given basically Kat's dad 2 weeks to return the paintings or else. Ordinarily, that's not the end of the world, except Kat's dad didn't steal the paintings.
Right.
And so basically at that point, Kat has to either convince this guy he's wrong, which Taccone's never going to admit he's wrong, or Kat can track down the real thief and steal the paintings back.
Yeah,
and so that's what she does.
This is so Ocean's 11, 12, and 13. I mean, this is so great. Now, you've got her tough enough to go up against Arturo Taccone. I mean, to sit down and talk to him and hold her own.
I think I grew up in a small family business on a farm. I know a lot of girls who have grown up, especially in kind of male-dominated industries. And I distinctly remember, again, being a teenage girl and realizing, oh, I'm different than the men. And Kat hasn't quite done that yet. And so she's been at her Uncle Eddie is kind of the patriarch of her family. She's spent her whole life at Uncle Eddie's kitchen table with men, and older men, and very, you know, dangerous men, And so she doesn't think twice about walking in to a man like Tacone's
That's normal.
house. That's normal.
Okay.
This is what I do.
All right.
And she knows he's more dangerous than the people in her family.
Yeah.
But still, it's not walking, holding her own among the big boys is not a new thing to Kat at all. It doesn't matter that she's 100 pounds and 5'2". This is what she does. And so
that's pretty cool.
yeah, she's a cool cat.
I would love to
pardon the
know
pun.
how your mind works, that you're able to, come up with how she's going to resolve this. Does this take you months, or do you get it in the middle of the night, or what happens?
Yes, and yes.
Okay.
It takes months to get to the you get it in the middle of the night part. With this one of the interesting things was I knew very early on who the character of Kat was. She kind of came to me fully formed. That whereas with Cammie in the Gallagher Girl books, she's a girl who's dying to get into her family business. Kat is a girl who's dying to get out of her family business.
Cool.
And so I knew who she was very soon. I understood her family very soon. I understood Tacone very soon. But there was a third major player in this that I couldn't really get my mind around for a long time, and that is the real thief. Who really stole the paintings and why?
Yeah.
And so I was halfway through the draft, and I just couldn't quite get my mind around who is it. Somebody who's trying to set up her dad? Is it someone? Is it actually her dad and he actually did it? I had all these different ideas going on. And then one night I was up in the middle of the night watching the TV show, the movie The Usual Suspects.
Wow.
Which is a great classic kind of film noir. And there's the character of Kaiser Soze, who's this mythical thief that nobody's really sure if he exists or not. And back when I was first starting writing, I wrote a lot of screenplays and read a lot about Hollywood. And there's an idea of, in the Directors Guild of America, if a director is recut by the studio, and so they kind of lose artistic control over their movies. And if they don't like the end product, at the time, they didn't have to have their name credited in the credits. They could actually use the name Alan Smithy, which, if you rearrange the letters, spells the alias men.
No way.
So I was watching Kaiser Soze and thinking about Alan Smithy, and I thought about, okay, what if there is kind of this sort of mysterious thief, like a mythical thief, that's a name that anybody could use. And so that's who the thief is in this book, and she finds that out, that it was actually stolen by a master thief who's using this mythical name. And they only do that when they're doing something very, very big, very, very dangerous, and for a very good cause. It's not something that you do for personal gain.
Right.
You do this for a higher purpose.
Yes.
And so
that was a neat twist.
And so that's the character of Vasily Romani. And when Vasily Romani came onto the page, everything fell together. Now, people frequently ask me, how hard is it to figure out how to do the heists?
Yeah.
And I say it's much easier to figure out how to rob a museum if you're also the person who figured out how to guard the museum. So I get to play both sides of that, which makes it far easier than it would be in real life.
So, as you said, you're looking at everything through new eyes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, when you're not writing, what are you doing?
I cook, I clean, I do laundry. I have a very normal life. And I like to read, obviously. I watch entirely too much television. I'm totally addicted to TV. Go to a lot of movies, read a lot of books.
Do you have any causes that you're a big supporter of?
Yes, a local food bank is very dear to my heart. I've just started working with the Junior League where I live, and they do a lot of wonderful charity work in the community. They kind of specialize in getting new charities up and running, and so they'll start new things and get them up until that charity can kind of sustain itself, and then they move on and start something else, which I find very, very fulfilling. So it's a lot of fun.
Don't you one day want to have your own farm/ranch?
Yes, you have been reading the blog.
I have been reading your blog.
Get back closer to my roots, which would be great.
And you're an Oklahoman?
Yes.
Wow.
That's where the accent comes from.
Okay, yeah, it sounds a little southern there, just a little bit. Well, Allie, it's been just great to sit down and talk with you. It's been so fun, and I just thoroughly enjoyed reading all the books.
Thank you.
And we were saying that probably girls, that she started out writing for 13 and 14-year-olds. It's backed up to 12s, 11s, 10s, and now a few precocious 9s are picking them up. So they're wonderful for all ages.
They really are.
And they're just exciting reads, but they touch on all those little things about a girl turning into a woman.
Yes.
And you do it brilliantly.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to get to be here and a pleasure to get to do it.
Great. Thanks so much for coming and joining us.
Thank you.
And for you all, of course, we've got them all at the library, and we hope that you are going to come in and I'm sure you're going to add a sequel to Heist Society.
I'm working on it right now.
Oh, good. I had a feeling there would be one. So thanks for joining us, and as always, come see us at the library.